Mid-1980s, a significant decline started in export market for farm produce, particularly for the largest single crop, bananas. In 2007, rural workers and farmers looking for employment in urban areas led to land use for agriculture at its lowest point of 100 square kilometers. According to the available data, agricultural lands increased slightly to 107 square kilometers and have held constant from 2009 onward to 2014. The government has been taking action to revitalize the agriculture sector by encouraging young people to farm and by making land available through a new initiative of a land bank project. Observations in the field do not suggest that the methods and approach to farming, however, are changing sufficiently to avoid land degradation at the national level now and in the future.
We have a major project called a land bank project or land bank initiative. That project is meant to, like in a bank, you put money in a bank, but that project is land we're looking at. So we're trying to get lands from both crown lands to other government lands, to private sector lands, to privately owned lands. Places that have lands, and lands are just, they're not in use and they're good agricultural land. We have been trying to have discussions with them to see if they're willing to input these lands into our land bank initiative or land bank project so that it can be made for productive use for national food security.
Growth in the agriculture sector is vital for food security in St. Lucia, but without the enforcement of sustainable agricultural policies and practices, the country will continue to experience significant soil erosion, leading to the destruction and loss of fertile topsoil over the coming years and as weather patterns change.
You may have landslides if there is not sufficient tree planting on the slopes. If you do more bananas on the slopes and you don't put trees like cocoa that has a major taproot system or oranges, any other major dicotyledonous plant on the slopes, then it can be troublesome because the banana is a monocotyledonous plant. It has a fibrous system, so it will not serve as providing a stabilization for the slopes. So we encourage farmers to do intercropping of bananas and vegetables with tree crops. Even the livestock farmers, they train farmers in terms of, the hoof of the calf and the weight of the calf can cause hard pans or hardening of the soil. So they encourage farmers that when they're doing open grazing of their cattle, that they do it in a proper way that lends itself to proper land use and proper soil preservation measures.
At present, competition from food imports and economic circumstances pressure farmers to keep production costs low, and their inability to avoid more advanced technologies to adapt to climate change is likely to set the stage for increased land degradation over the next 10 years. Immediate financial gains to provide for a family is circumventing actions at the small farmer level to adopt sustainable farming practices. Continued high levels of food importation and local crop failures could lead to the end of small-scale farming in the next 10 to 20 years in St. Lucia and leave in its wake polluted soils and rivers. With the dire need to address the economic aspects of rural livelihoods in St. Lucia, there is another imminent scenario for the land. There are talks of cannabis legalization and cultivation. The St. Lucia Cannabis Commission was set up for this in 2019. If this moves forward with no careful planning and framework to guide farming practices, the rate of land degradation could double in the next 5 to 10 years due to the reintroduction of a new phase of monocropping on the island. This projection is based on the potential reversal of the trend of lands still returning to forest cover after the drop in banana cultivation in the early 1990s. Cannabis is already cultivated illegally in St. Lucia. With legalization, large tracts of land will potentially be cleared and dedicated to its legal production. In this scenario, St. Lucians can expect to see an increase in soil erosion from the mountainsides and sedimentation runoff into streams, rivers, and water catchments. The need for higher levels of pesticides to avoid crop failures will rise, and these chemicals will end up in stream flows as cannabis cultivation is known to use some of the most dangerous poisons in the world. The economic success of cannabis production will directly influence the extent of land degradation through poor farming practices. Current high prices now could fall as more countries in the region and around the world are relaxing the legal restrictions around planting and using the crop. If the price falls, then large-scale farm development in St. Lucia may not be sustained. Persistence to produce at competitive prices by persons who would have returned to the rural sector, however, could lead to the ultimate catastrophic scenario for land degradation. In this scenario, given the small physical scale of the island, the high use of pesticides and fertilizer to meet production targets would destroy entire watersheds. Government is taking action to restore degraded lands and watersheds in St. Lucia, but the current mostly reactive approach to this complex problem is projected to fail on the account of numerous reasons. The Department of Forestry is engaged in the free planting of deep-rooted trees on farms, along hillsides, slopes, and river embankments. This is to slow down loose soils ending up in streams. However, only about 40% of the saplings would live through intense rains and dry weather. In several cases, when they do grow, they are chopped down or damaged to the point of dying by individuals using the land. In other cases, after storms, trees are destroyed to make way for excavators to clear streams of eroded sediments, allowing them to flow and to reduce incidents of flooding.
You see it everywhere. Excavators, backhoes, and you know where that silt comes from? From the slopes. So the Ministry of Infrastructure is given millions of dollars to do that, and I'm not against it because it's livelihood opportunities. But the Forestry Department that is responsible for the slopes, the watersheds, the forest in the interior, if we were given a portion of that money, we would have been addressing the problems on the slope. But it's like removing silt from a river this year, and you have a set of silt waiting to come down to occupy that same portion that you remove. But more silt is waiting to come down on the hillside because you have not addressed the soil erosion issues there. So I'm saying this to make you understand that while an agency may be doing one thing, another agency is doing something opposite. So you're really not achieving what you really want to achieve nationally at the end.
The largest project addressing multiple environmental issues in St. Lucia and land degradation is the Ayanola project. Located in the northeast of the island, the Ayanola project covers around 50 square kilometers and focuses on reforestation, agroforestry, ecotourism, sustainable farming practices, and biodiversity conservation.
We have quite a bit of deforestation taking place throughout the country. Within the Ayanola project area, which spans from Cap Estate in the north to Dennery in the south, seeking to replant the trees in the area to restore the natural vegetation, the trees that were found in that area.
Another smaller project with similar aims as the Ayanola project is the IW Echo project, covering 17 square kilometers in the Soufrière watershed. Examining the challenges around implementing projects such as these and their impact provide an indicator of possible future states of the environment. These projects take years to be implemented, often needing extended schedules to be completed. When this happens, progress can be erased by social, political, cultural, and economic changes in the lives of communities and by cyclic natural disaster events. A much larger Ridge to Reef project started in 2016 in St. Lucia. It focused on restoration of both land and marine environmental health. After 2 years, however, the project is currently stalled, falling short of key planned outcomes, while the levels of pollution continue to build up again in the soil and water. Irresponsible agricultural land use and loss of forest cover during storms are not the only sources of land degradation in St. Lucia.